And we have a fan favorite deck here with us. And not only that, but also one of the most favorite decks of Leonhard König himself, of course, the voice strategy on Felix' side.
Absolutely. In Germany we say, wir haben uns nicht lumpen lassen. Yeah? I have no idea how to translate that. I should have thought that through differently.
Thing is that.
But,
Jelmer is the one starting things off, though. And that is the card you want. That is the throne. The pinnacle of the deck, kind of. The field spell that enables everything, because you can choose between Samsara Lotus or... Oh! Look at this. Jelmer must have a really good hand, because he destroys Spirit of Jubel here. And that usually indicates that he wants to go into a preemptive fusion summon of Phantom of Jubel, the new fusion monster from Battle of Legends Terminal Revenge, which of course just protects you against cards like Ash Blossom and so on and so forth.
I like this card so much, honestly. I mean, it's a negation itself, and you just put it on the field, preventing like cards such as Effect Veiler, Nibiru, and it's like unbelievable, especially because like I saw Nibiru in Felix hands. So
it's true, but we have seen, I mean, if you have taken a look into the hand of Felix, there is a lot of interaction there.
Okay. So we can be waiting for that. And I mean, if you can just... The thing is, usually against a lot of the decks, you could wait for a spot to go for Nibiru and then use Effect Veiler on the card, trying to negate the Nibiru, for example. Appaloosa, usually that's how it works. But with the Phantom of Jubel, they want tributes for cost to actually change the effect of that Nibiru, and therefore you couldn't really go after it with an Effect Veiler. But I mean, you can kind of do it the other way around. Just use the Effect Veiler first.
Resolve.
They kind of let it resolve, because why would they negate it? And then the Nibiru comes after. So there's definitely ways to work through that kind of a Jubel Fiendsmith combo here. And I mean, we yesterday in the last round of the day, of course, already had the Fiendsmith Jubel deck. There it wasn't really able to show off that well against Julio Valls and his Ritual Beast deck. But here we see, for the first time this weekend, the Jubel and also the Jubel Terror Incarnate, the OG Jubel monsters on the field, and I love that so much. And now we're swiftly and smoothly also transitioning into our Unchained engine here.
I'm still hoping that I'm at some point going to see Jubel the Ultimate Nightmare, because it is one of my favorite cards from the Phantom Darkness. However, I do kind of doubt that this is going to be the case.
One day.
Yeah.
Maybe you can be the one playing it.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I won't.
You should do that for sure.
I'll leave the spotlight to someone else, you know?
All right. We do get to summon out Spirit of Jubel here again by the effect of Gruesome Grave Skirmer, which was just banished from the graveyard. And I mean, the introduction of that card, there's not a Jubel in its card name, but this card is made for the Jubel strategy, made for the Jubel deck. The hand effect already great, because it helps you destroy more Spirit of Jubels or Jubels on the field, but then additionally to that also the graveyard effect, just bringing one of them back or special something from the hand is just so good. Sometimes helps you unclunking some hands where you can't really start in any other way, and then you maybe normal summon it and banish it from the graveyard to get a Spirit of Jubel out of the hand. So many applications for the card.
Is incredibly good, and now we're going to see a Terror Incarnate special summoned again, Jubel as well. The deck is just popping off. It's really nice to see the deck comboing here. We're going to see a Link summon off too, and yes, of course, we haven't even gone into the Moon of the Closed Heaven, because we also play the Fiendsmith engine, of course, also elevating the deck to the next level. It was really strong before the Infinite Forbidden. Now it's even stronger.
That's absolutely correct. Jubel, as you also just saw in the deck breakdown, the third most represented deck in the tournament. Rightfully so, still a lot of them in competition as well.
I really like what's happening here, because now you would say, hey, why are there two Phantom of Jubel? I mean, now you really can't play with Nibiru Impermanence anymore, because if you just resolve the Impermanence on one of the Phantom of Jubel, the other one is still very well intact and is going to be able to negate a possible Nibiru. So Felix is looking at a hand with so many interactions and is probably thinking, what the heck am I going to do with this?
Yeah, absolutely. And last weekend at the North American World Championship qualifier, we already saw someone qualifying with this strategy specifically, with the Fiendsmith Jubel strategy, making top 4 with that. And one tendency from there was that people were upping the number of Phantom of Jubels in their extra deck, usually going with the maximum of 3, because you summon this card so often, sometimes even just use it as a link monster to go into higher link ratings, such as Appaloosa and so on and so forth. But Jelmer only included 2 into his extra deck, which I'm not sure whether I'm too big of a fan, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I like the card so much on its level, maximize it just in case, right?
Same,
and especially because, like, in this situation, another one may have come out, but you know, the Vultures made the scene here. And I mean, what do you think, guys, about the deck? Because entering a tournament like this, if you had the chance of playing Fizz Meets Snake Eyes or the U-Bell, which one would you have picked? Because, like, for example, I'm for U-Bell. I really like it, to be honest. Like,
and I get where you're coming from, honestly. I think the ceiling that the U-Bell deck is providing on its opening turn is a little higher compared to the Snake Eye deck. And therefore, just going with the approach of creating a nearly unbreakable field is something I can see myself doing as well, for sure.
Julio?
I like this for smaller tournaments more than the Snake Eyes decks, for something like the WCS playoffs, where I thought I was going to see the deck a lot more, because when it has a higher ceiling and you're playing against the duelists that are the best in Europe right now, you might want to have this little extra edge that your deck can give you. In this situation, in such a long tournament, I think consistency is key.
You're right.
I can get your point as well. So we see Varudras on the field as well, and Felix. Does he have a moment here to do things?
Wait, that is Nibiru plus Vayner.
There is Nibiru. Jelmer. I mean, he knows when he's just activating that Nibiru, there must be something more coming, because he wouldn't just randomly activate that Nibiru.
But he didn't activate Impermanence or Veiler before on the Phantom of U-Bell.
Yeah, let's see.
Does he also have Dominus Purge? Does he also have the new trap card that was introduced into Infinite Forbidden?
True, nobody really was running that throughout the tournament so far, but we're just accepting it. Phantom of U-Bell not really negating the effect of the Nibiru, but changing it to destroying a U-Bell from your deck there.
Well, that doesn't help.
Indeed, it doesn't help. It doesn't help Felix, at least, to be fair.
Yeah, I guess that's what it is. I mean, good for Jelmer, to be fair. Like,
yeah, he can just go on here.
Because I think, I mean, like, it would have been an incredible punish, right? Because once you get rid of one of the Phantom of U-Bell, basically you're exposing yourself, and that will be the case, because Felix said either the... I think he had both Veiler and Impermanence, right?
Yeah.
So it's...
Oh, yeah. And I mean, you were mentioning Dominus Purge, which actually, as we can see with his deck list, is a card he is running. But that would have not been a card that could have been combined with that here, because Dominus Purge only goes after cards that search from the deck, so that would have not really mattered here in that spot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it just says if your opponent controls a card, I mean, then you can activate it from hand, and you need an effect that adds a card from the deck to the hand, and therefore that would have not been the case. Yeah, and we get to the Caesar too. That's a really, really impressive field here by Jelmer. Having Caesar, having Varudras, the two very, very powerful Exceed monsters, backed up by Apollousa, of course, as well.
No Phantom of U-Bell anymore. Is this a U-Bell deck? Are you sure about this?
Oh, and Felix can't do anything, immediately packing up his cards. Jelmer and his friends are celebrating for him, and the crowd is taking game number 1 here with his U-Bell Fiendsmith deck.
I mean, I think the pressure made like a joke on Felix here, because like I mean, you open up your hand, you're sitting at the future match, and it's not an ideal hand to start things off with, right? Because you have a lot of hand traps, and I think you have some sort of follow up for the turn, but Nibiru was the only play he had.
Yeah. I mean, I think he should have activated Veiler or Impermanence first.
Yeah, maybe just, he just slammed it when he saw one Phantom of U-Bell, saying, okay, it's not enough, I'm going to negate it with the Veiler, and then he just maybe a little misstep for him. And I mean, good that his opponent didn't see his deck.
Maybe he also was just not really aware of Phantom of U-Bell tributing for cost. That may have been the reason why there was that little misstep of holding the Veiler, thinking he could still just do it, but eventually, as you saw, that didn't work out, so that Nibiru sadly had to return back to the hand, and that was really not what Felix was trying to do there at all.
I think that was one of those moments where you go, oh,
oopsies. Well, let's move on.
Go into the next one. Haha, that didn't happen. Of course, I didn't have anything else except for Nibiru. You gotta shoot your shot, right? But yeah, this didn't help him at all. I mean, there is the advantage that his opponent doesn't know his deck. That is a very good point. Even though I think that even if he doesn't have the engine in this game with a Nibiru on the field, you basically just need a monster, then you have a Little Knight. Your opponent was already very deeply invested in the combo, so there weren't too many cards in hand left. So I think that maybe this could have been a grind game that goes into the favor of the Voiceless Voice deck, because that is what the deck does best. Yeah, for sure. It is definitely very, very good at grinding. Now, in a going first scenario in game number 2, we see Felix and his Voiceless Voice deck is including a Solemn card into his side deck. And Leo, what would be the obvious one? Solemn Scolding.
thank you for ruining my joke, because that is the one he's running, and I'm completely baffled by that, because nobody is running Solemn Scolding. So how did you expect that?
I mean, if you're playing the Voiceless Voice deck, you're basically having all of your spell and trap cards face up, and Solemn Scolding has to be the only face down card that you're setting to activate it, and that is the reason why you're playing this card in the deck. I'm an expert on Voiceless Voice.
So it's just an upgrade to Solemn Judgment, kind of, right?
Yeah,
because
sure.
it hits more things than Solemn Judgment.
Yeah,
so
totally.
you can afford to play it in that deck, and so you probably should. I mean, I should have expected from the Voiceless Voice expert himself to know that, of course.
It's not because I saw it in the deck list.
Nobody would have thought that, of course, Leo. But yeah, Solemn Scolding, a pretty cool card. I don't think I've seen it in competitive use for a very long time, to be honest.
I think
Pendulums.
that was, they
Necros.
played Solemn Scolding.
Yeah.
Necros as well, good point.
With Ariana, you played this card. I remember searching that after activating Luster Pendulum, popping Ariana, searching another one. Those were good times, guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Those were really good times. Let's see, though, whether Felix can now have a good time in this match, as he's about to start game number 2. So let's go back over to the table.
I want to say we have seen definitely that Fiendsmith is the best engine to put in basically any deck that you're playing right now. And I just want to mention how crazy that really is, because have you looked at the Melodious engine, especially in a deck like Voiceless Voice? If you're activating one Ostinado, you're basically getting Appaloosa for free. How is that not the best engine in the game right now?
Agreed. Melodious kind of fell off after the release of Infinite Forbidden. And Felix also did not include it into his strategy here. But he, of course, did include the Zafira, Dragon Queen of the Voiceless Voice, which would be discarded here to send Prayers of the Voiceless Voice to the graveyard and then search for Skull Guardian to his hand.
What do you think Jelmer might have sided in against like a blind, opponent? Because like honestly, I think Felix is explaining to him the Voiceless Voice cards, because maybe he's not super familiar with this, right? So does he have like any generic going second card? What do you think?
Don't think he expected the Voiceless Voice of all decks to be on the opponent's side there, but that is indeed correct that he has a couple of just generic going second cards. And I think Harpy's Featherduster is pretty good. He has that. Dark Rune no More, same thing, also decent. I'm wondering about a very popular going second card, Mulchami Perulia. How much does that do? Yeah, it's pretty good, right?
Against which deck doesn't normal summon?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
and I mean,
makes
ritual
sense.
summoning at the end of the day usually also happens from the hand, so that would be additional draws through Perulia. But Perulia would have been the first thing to activate most likely for Jelmer on the turn of Felix, so we can rule out that card kinda. But there is Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring now being activated, and I think we just used that on the effect of Skull Guardian, didn't we? Okay. But Pot of Prosperity might still be able to find the card we were desiring with, even though it's the Pot of Prosperity. He could get his desire fulfilled here by looking at the top 6 cards. Let's have a look together. What is it going to be?
If there is going to be a low, because I think in his hand there might already be something like a Scolding.
Oh, there's double Scolding being revealed.
Oh, wow.
And double Prosperity. Is that what he wanted, though?
I think this is the worst prosperity we have seen in forever.
100%. Yesterday with Ritual Beast, there was a prosperity that revealed 2 prosperity and a Canahawk, but the Canahawk was exactly what he wanted. So.
Okay.
I mean, this is not what you want, because like you have one Scolding in your hand. You're telling your opponent you're playing Scolding with this prosperity, basically.
Yeah.
And the other 2 prosperity is useless. And
Okay, so we just take Droll
Joel is phenomenal,
which,
though.
to be fair, is really, really good against Jubel. Yeah, absolutely.
The thing is, I think if you're not putting out a field at all with this, you're going to be able to play through.
Oh, we
Joel
have
and
to
a
set
Scolding.
one. So that is going to be all for Felix. Just the Skull Guardian alone did it.
When
Or
that
the Ash
is-
Blossom, my bad.
That is a Nightmare Throne drawn from the top. If you're unsure on how to play through your opponent's field and you find the best card in your deck from the top, that must feel nice. However, the rest of the hand doesn't look too stunning right here, or rather it does definitely look stunning because there's not a lot of play here. However, I
But
think
look
that
at
Jelmer
that.
is finding a way to get a negate on the field already.
Yeah, we're just fusing from the hand, giving up 2 cards from a hand to
Old
contact
school.
fuse into Phantom of Jubel. Yeah, who does that nowadays? But Jelmer does. And I mean, that's pretty cool because you know there is a Drone Lockbird waiting in Felix's hand now, and you now have just summoned the monster that can deal with it.
To be honest, if you're drolling and lockbirding now, then you're going to give your opponent an extender. They're just going to tribute the Phantom of Jubel and special summon a Jubel from the deck by destroying his spirit. But Solemn Scolding is something that can't be negated, so there is still a thing going on for Felix.
There is the Nightmare Throne. Felix quickly nods, and I would have. You were wondering. I see your face, Leo. That could have been a card we could have went after. We could also just go out with a normal summon, though.
That is an Arcbrave call.
Oh, there is the Droll and Lockbird. And
suggest.
Did he? I think Jelmer gave
negating the Phantom.
Thumbs up.
Oh wow, things are happening right now.
Okay, he's allowing me, right? So it's he has a plan, for sure. I mean, doesn't expect the Solemn Scolding, but, you know, let's...
Samsara Lotus is being normal summoned. Felix now thinking on the summon of that, because Solemn Scolding, as we were just explaining, basically combines all of his Solemn cards, so also the Solemn Warning Summon Negation would be appropriate. Now we activate the effect of Spirit of Jubel, and of course Spirit of Jubel can play around Troll and Lockbird by setting the Nightmare Pain here. Did Felix really think about that too good? I think we should have interrupted the Samsara Lotus, honestly.
No, the thing is that, where do you activate the Solemn Scolding? I mean, like...
I mean, Pain can't be activated right now, right? You can't add anything because the drone Lockbirds...
You can still activate it because it's not an activation effect, so you can at least get the damage to your opponent. And I mean, there is a 2000 attack points monster on the opponent's side of the field and a Spirit of Jubel waiting already, so maybe we can just go with the old school Jubel mechanic of attacking into the opponent's monsters here. It's kind of Mikanko-esque what we could be about to see. Let's see.
And here he can't even like negate the Jubel with his calling because like he does Jubel Chain 1, Throne Chain 2, right? So it's...
Yep, that is apparently what is happening.
I think now he feels really safe with the Troll and Lockbird, so he's waiting for a big summon to throw the Scolding. Or maybe if Jelmer commits into a Yama here or goes to a Varudras, then you want to activate the Scolding.
I think Jelmer, when he started looking for his deck, realized that he couldn't activate the effect of Nightmare Throne. Yeah, judges are confirming, talking to him right now. I'm pretty sure, and that is a smart decision usually, that you would side out the Terror Incarnate going second, which is apparently what Jelmer did here. So, Jelmer now still just with that one Skull Guardian on the opponent's side of the field, haven't found a way to summon another monster bigger than that, but we could activate the Nightmare Pain, we could deal some damage to our opponent, but first of all, apparently we're going to link off the Jubel here.
And this looks... Are we going to the Feedsmith engine, or are we going to try and play with the Unchained engine first? There's multiple options for the deck. It looks like we're hovering over the Yama right here, but is this something that's going to be scolded? Moon of the Closed Heaven is going to be summoned, and I think at some point you want to activate your Scolding, because this Fiendsmith engine, it just provides so much value. Maybe you're waiting for the Requiem?
I mean, you guys were really sure that there was a Scolding, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it was just not a Scolding, though, because I'm almost certain we would have seen a Scolding until now, so maybe it's just Dominus Purge, which kind of looks similar to Scolding.
Does it, though?
Oh, okay.
It's
a trap card, that's all I'm saying, but there is now Fiendsmith Engraver, first of all.
At this point, I'm really wondering if there is a Scolding or we just...
Yeah.
Because no, otherwise, I mean, like, at this point, you would have activated 100%, right?
That's what I'm thinking, for sure. So we now have found a way to Fiendsmith Engraver, and we can use the on-field effect, trying to get rid of our own spell and trap card there, the Fiendsmith Requiem, and the Skull Guardian while doing that.
Maybe Felix is also just incredibly patient.
There may be, you know, especially because like you can tell that he's thinking whether to respond or not, right? So he has to have an answer. I don't think he has it in the hand, though.
I mean, so far nothing happened to him. You know, there's nothing that was threatening the Skull Guardian so far at all. And maybe he's not like us, who wants to throw his only negate onto the first thing he sees. You know?
Yeah. So Felix is reading the Phantom of Jubel again, though, so that could indicate that there actually is a monster effect that he would be able to use, which would be the last card in hand. Is there maybe an Nibiru waiting? Because I'm pretty sure we're now on to 5 summons already. Very well over it, probably, at this point. Oh, but there is the Solemn Scolding now, and we're using that on the Fiendsmith Engraver on-field effect. Honestly, that is rather late in the turn.
I think it's late, because now the Engraver is in the graveyard as well. I mean, I think it's too late, right? I mean, it has to be too late. I mean, if you're not sure where to activate it, I will not let Requiem Resolve just in case, right? I mean, I will not have your opponent, you know, have the Engraver in the graveyard, because otherwise here it's going to be difficult, because like with one card in hand and the Skull Guardian on the field, I think it may not be enough, especially because like your opponent has a follow-up for the turn after as well, and it's not done yet.
Spirit of Jubel. And we're going to fusion summon one more time. There is more materials in the graveyard this time. That feels like a 2024 kind of fusion summon there, using 2 monsters from the graveyard. Fusion summoning out Phantom of Jubel there, number 2.
We don't care about Lockbird, apparently.
There is Nightmare Pain.
Oh wait, that is a lot of damage.
It is a lot of damage, and Felix is down to 5,000. I think that is enough damage even. That should be 6,000 here.
I think it's 6,000, right?
Yeah, and Felix is on 5,000.
Spirit of Jubel and the fist bump. Jelmer just OTKs here with 3 monsters that have 0 attack points, playing through Droll and Lockbird, and then at some point realizing, hey, if I just flip my Nightmare Pain that searches nothing, I just have game.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, well played by Jelmer, for sure, because like he didn't even negate the Droll lock, maybe catching this play that could have led him to win this game too, which honestly, I think it could have taken another direction, right? Because if you activate this Solemn Scolding, I don't want to say on the throne, but maybe like on the second play.
I think just using it on a normal summon is so good against Jubel. Just use it on the Samsara Lotus. I think that could have definitely shut down a lot there.
In the first game, we have seen that his opponent maybe didn't exactly have too much experience against the Jubel deck by not activating a Veiler or an Impermanence first on the Spirit of Jubel. And then I think if he knew what the deck is capable of doing going second, how much damage you can do into an uninterrupting field, then he would have probably said, hey, okay, I'm going to pay 3,000 life points for a Scolding. That is going to put me in a very easy OTK range. I might throw this on the first thing I'm going to see. Otherwise, I really like the approach of throwing a Lockbird, basically decimating the chances of your opponent to put up a big field and then interrupting it when it hurts the most. However, little did he know that just the normal summon negation would have hurt the most.
Yeah, that's true. So that is the Voice player losing this feature match, but still, as you saw with their score, not completely out yet, because he only had 1 loss, 1 draw. So I think he's still now in the range where when he wins the last 2 rounds of the day, he would still make it. On the other hand, Jelmer right now must be feeling good, winning first round of the day in day 2, and now only being 1 more win away from making top cut as well with the Jubel strategy. He's doing well. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, it feels good. Like, you entered to the tournament, you had a feudal match round 1 in day 2, and you are one step away from the top cut, honestly, and it has to be, you know, very confident at this point, right?
And I mean, how convincingly fast as well, right? Because that was a quick match. So he just woke up early to get here because it's 9 a.m. in the morning here in Europe. But then he just basically is done within 15 minutes with his first match, and he can go back to chill. He can relax a little more before going into the super important last 2 rounds of the day, of course.
I really like the Jubel deck, and Jelmer, he's just in it to win it, you know? This was a great performance by him, also playing around a lot of stuff, even though there could have been some play for Felix in the first game. And Felix is, I think, with his voiceless voice, he must be speechless right now.
I think he's voiceless, if you ask me, but you can definitely get behind that logic. Yeah, Leo, I mean, you expected Voice to do well, so do you think from here on they're going to move on doing a little better than here in this featured match?
I think so. Voice is by far the best deck in the field. It has been the best deck ever since it came out. It's my absolute favorite deck. There's so many different things you can do, like summoning out a Skull Guardian.
There you go. Sometimes you even get to add a load to the field.
That is really cool. And sometimes you also have a Saravis that is going to take care of a summon of your opponent's monster. So there is plenty of options.
I mean, Jelmer really didn't see it coming, and I think he actually started in Nibiru's for the going second scenario. There was a Nibiru in his hand.
He didn't hear it coming.
He didn't know that he's up against the Voice strategy, because if you know that you're up against that deck, you probably don't even summon it. You don't really side it in. Because, yes, there is some combo approaches to the Voice strategy where you would be summoning 5 or more times, but sometimes they just summon 3 or 4 times, and that's it, and that's all they need. And then you kind of sit there with the Nibiru, kind of card you don't want to use, you can't use even, so don't really know.
That is also the beauty of the deck. However, I'm not too sure if I love the pick of the Voiceless Voice now that everyone is just running Bestials again. This is also something we've seen quite a decent amount of tier elements, to be honest, in this tournament. And I was also extremely curious now that we only have 1 Chiron, 1 Havanus, and 1 Merly. How are you dealing with 6 main deck Bystials?
That. Also, not only that, we even saw a Drytron deck still in the competition being at the top table.
True.
So how is that even possible? Because that is a deck that just historically has a big problem with Bystials, but still is out there fighting for their spot in the top cut. So maybe we're going to have Drytron in the next couple of rounds as well. Who knows?
Drytron has been real quiet ever since Magnum came out, I'm gonna be honest there. But the Bystials have been so good ever since they came out in Darkwing Blast, I believe. They were phenomenal versus the tier element strategy. Basically, the only thing that was really keeping the tier element deck in check a little bit, at least for the Darkwing Blast format, you know. So that was, I think, a format where we didn't even have a YCS in Europe, but there was one in North America. Yep. They were playing that right before the Calbeck and Agido engine came out. And yeah, there was one time ever since Power of the Duelist came out. No, not Power of the Duelist, Power of the Elements.
That was way back.
That was way back. Where Sprite had the upper hand on tier elements.
That is true.
Yeah, I remember it.
Bystials.
Pretty short only, but that was a pretty cool time. But back to other times, back to the modern days, back to Jubel, Fiendsmith and Jelmer, because we're ready for the winners interview. So let's give it over to Ed and Jelmer.
Very much, Basti. I am here with Jelmer, who's just won that round 10 feature match here and is now 8-1-1 in this European World Championship qualifier. And actually, like quite a lot of the people I've interviewed over this weekend, your first feature match, and also you said your first time at day 2.
My second time at day 2.
But first time top coming this far.
At the previous WCQ at Berlin, I made day 2 as well.
Wow.
But just barely, and this time it's a bit better.
But now feature match, early in the morning doing a feature match, how's that for you?
It's not that fun, but it was much more relaxing than I expected.
That's good. And so do you find, because a lot of people at home won't realize how much pressure you're under when you've got lights and cameras and an audience knowing that the entire stream is watching you. Does that affect how you play? Does it affect how you approach the game, do you think?
It affected me a tiny bit. I made 2 small misplays because of it. Forgot the Shafar effect, and I shouldn't have activated the Engraver. But overall, I don't think it mattered a lot, the stress with the misplays.
And you had a bunch of your friends who are just behind the camera who all gave you a lot of fist bumps as you came off stage. So you've got a big entourage of friends with you supporting you.
Yeah, that's correct, yeah. A lot of them are supporting me all weekend. They gave me food, so...
They gave you the fuel to carry it to a win. So talk to me a bit about Jubel and also going up against Voiceless Voice. Have you encountered Voiceless Voice so far this weekend at all, or is that pretty rare?
Not this weekend. I've played it before. One of the friends from the group is actually playing the deck.
Oh, wow.
So I played a lot against that. So I knew how to deal with the deck. And
wow.
That's once they basically summon the Skull Guardian, you can just kick for damage with it and they have no out to it.
Perfect. So you were already prepared for this?
Exactly, yeah.
Oh, wow, that's great. Good stuff playtesting. So talk to us about your choice with Jubel. What is it that you like about the Jubel deck?
It was either between Snake Eye or Jubel.
Of course.
And I just like the archetype a bit more. The Snake Eye mirrors are very boring, very intensive. And with Jubel, you just make a really strong board. And sometimes the games are just free because they can't break the combo. And just so you don't get energy drained from all those hard matches, Jubel is just the right call, I think.
Well, it's clearly served you well at this point. You're now 8-1-1. What was the loss? What was the draw?
I drew against Centurion.
Okay.
They calamity locked me game 3 without hand traps, and I couldn't enter the battle phase with a Jubel to kick for damage.
Goodness. Okay. And what was the draw?
That was the draw, and
so the
loss was Tempai round 9.
Okay.
Got shifted plus field spell every game. So that was not my match to win, basically.
And what was most of the 8 that you went up against that you won? Was it mostly Snake Eyes Fiendsmith?
2 Snake Eye Fiendsmith, 2 Tempais, and a lot of rogue matchups.
Really?
Yeah.
Any weird rogue matchups that you thought were interesting that you went up against?
I played against the Sprite Ice Barrier deck. It was,
wow.
It was really tough.
Interesting. Well, best of luck in your next 2 rounds. You've got only 2 more rounds of Swiss. Do you think you could take it all the way to the top cut?
I hope so. I really hope so. After this win, I I'm hopeful.
You're driven now for those
Exactly,
last two.
yeah.
Well, best of luck. I'm going to let you go over and chat to Tom now, who you guys are going to go and do some plays. So you can go over and join him in that interview. Thank you very much, Jelmer. I mean, this is one of the things I like about this. A lot of people who it's their first time doing a feature match, cruising to a win, and at this point having a great record and maybe even making it to that top cut. But without further ado, going to hand you guys over to the amazing Tom Payne, who's going to chat with Jelmer about some of his plays.
Hello everyone, we're here with Jelmer to go a bit more in-depth about that game. How do you feel about it overall?
I made a few tiny misplays, but overall I'm quite happy.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's to be expected. Feature match, first thing in the morning. Did you get a good night's rest going into it?
Not really, not really.
It can be tricky sometimes. You're here with all your friends to make sure you get that nice sleep. All right, well, let's dive into the first game. So we have our first clip here. It's a pretty simple clip, just you starting off the game with the Nightmare Throne even. So what's going through your head here? What's your favorite search target?
I had a lot of starters in my hand, so I wanted to set up the Phantom of Yubel as fast as possible, so the hand traps in my opponent's hands wouldn't do as much. And he opened a lot of hand traps, and I could block them exactly with that Phantom. So starting with the Phantom is usually what makes the difference.
I see. So when you've got lots of engine cards in your hand, you think you're happy just to go straight for that Phantom of Yubel, get that negation up.
Exactly.
So, I mean, what other cards did you have? How'd you follow it up?
I basically had all starters, so the Gates plus the Samsarity Lotus. So at that point, I won't gamble on them having infinite impermanence. So the Samsarity Lotus is the correct call instead of the Gates. If you normal summon the Dark Backing Beast and they impermit, I would have been done. But with the Samsara, I still could have pushed.
I see. So with your hand, you thought you were able to play through a variety of hand traps, including the impermanence, and you chose the kind of safer one. Is it a bigger field if you start with the Gates, or is it about the same?
It would have saved me the Phantom of Yubel and extra deck. So both sides have their good things, both sides have their bad things.
Okay, so tell me about that. 2 Phantom of Yubel. Are you a 3 Phantom of Yubel? Obviously, you're running 2 copies. What made you make that choice?
Extra deck space. I just couldn't fit the third one. I tried cutting either the Appaloosa, the Caesar, the Desiree, or the Farudras, but I just couldn't. I couldn't decide which one. So I went with 2, and the third one barely came up.
That makes sense to me. I mean, it is a very powerful card, but needs must, right?
Exactly.
So in our next clip here, we saw a Nibiru hit the field, and I mean, what did you think when this happened? Like, your opponent just played like a kind of lone Nibiru. Were you smelling something weird going on? What were you thinking?
He said he didn't know that the Phantom of Yubel tributed for cost. So at that point I realized that he made a misplay, so I didn't get punished. If he would have had the failure plus the impermanence, it would have made a difference, but at that point he lost 3 cards in hand, so I would still have the follow-up on the next turn, and I wouldn't lose a game on that spot.
So did he say it to you at the time he didn't realize it tributed for cost, or was it like afterwards he said it?
He realized it when it tributed away.
Sure, so you must have thought, oh, okay, I've kind of got a free one here, rather than having to think about any... Did you think about there were any mind games when he first played it, or you just thought, oh, I'll just tribute it, what's he going to do?
I didn't expect any mind games based on him, but...
Okay, sure. So, I mean, the game, it didn't look like he did much after that game 1. It looked pretty clean. Like you were saying with Ed, first turn combo is first turn combo, right? So, in the second game now, I mean, one of the key moments maybe was just at the beginning where you Ash the Skull Guardian, and then your opponent resolved a Prosperity, and then we have a look at that. What were you thinking when you saw those top 6 cards?
I was a bit shocked by the Solemn Scolding, but otherwise I was really happy with what he revealed, because if he could have played, he would have played before the Prosperity, I think. So I was happy when he picked the Droll, so I knew Droll didn't really matter a lot to me, only for the Nightmare Throne. But otherwise I was really happy with just the one set, so I knew what to play around, the Scolding and the Impermanence, and that worked out quite well, I think.
Yeah, so, I mean, you can play around Draw and Lockbow quite well with this deck, you think?
Depending on the opening hand, but I already had a Phantom of Yubel on the field, so if I would have lost because of the draw, I could have tributed away the Phantom of Yubel to negate it, so it wouldn't have changed things.
Yeah, so I mean, in our next clip here, we just saw you like choose to let the Draw and Lockbird resolve and not activate the Phantom of Yubel. So you stand by that, obviously. I mean, you won the game. Would you have, so if you'd had different cards in your hand, you think you'd have chosen a different line, you'd have tried to negate it?
If I would have had gates in hand, I would have gates or the Dagrekning Beast, I would have negated it. Yeah.
And were you thinking maybe your opponent might have a Solemn Scalding face down, given there was 2 and they didn't pick one up?
When he didn't react to my some Saudi loads, I was a bit confused on what it was. If he's scolding it, I wouldn't. I'm not sure how the game would have went. I could have played through the impermanence, so I was a bit confused. So yeah.
That's fair enough. So we saw a few minutes later your opponent did actually activate that Solemn Scalding. So what do you think happened? So was this a Scalding in response to Fiendsmith Engraver activating its effect to try and send the Skull Guardian?
Yeah, that was a misplay on my part. I should not have activated Engraver, because if the Skull Guardian would have left the field, I could not have kicked for a lot of damage. With the Scalding, it was basically just a huge misplay, so based on that I just couldn't lose with the ULs.
So yeah, I was thinking about that. I was thinking, like, how are you going to do it? You could do a lot of damage while your opponent has a monster, but if they didn't have a monster, I was wondering how you were going to do any damage. Did you have a plan for that, or you just thought, I'll just sort of do my combo, I won't bother trying to win the game this turn? But
I would have gone into the Fiendsmith engine and pushed for a lot of damage and make the Appaloosa. So the follow-up, he didn't have a good follow-up after that, but yeah.
I mean, here we go. This is quite a fun way to win the game. Have you been doing this a lot this weekend with the Nightmare Pain?
Definitely. That's my main win con.
Yeah, it looks extremely satisfying to have your 3-0 attack point monsters. Your opponent has just done a bit of damage to themselves, hit them for 6,000 burn damage almost.
It's my favorite part of the deck, yeah.
Well, thanks for telling us more about the game, Jelmer. Congratulations on your win and good luck in the remainder. And everyone else at home, keep watching, and we'll see you soon for the next round feature match.